Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Claudia de la Cruz Perez, and I am your host. Today's episode is one that touches every part of who we are, no matter what our background is, what our relationship status looks like, or where we are in our personal growth journey. Respecting boundaries in a relationship and why it matters more than we think. We're diving into something that is essential for healthy connections, something many of us were never really taught on how to do. And what is respecting boundaries in a relationship? What does it mean? Boundaries are such a fundamental part of emotional well-being, but they're also one of the most commonly misunderstood concepts in relationships. Many of us grew up thinking boundaries were walls or signs of selfishness, or signs that something was wrong in a relationship. But in reality, boundaries are the exact opposite of disconnect. They're the roadmap that helps connections thrive. So today, we're going to walk through what boundaries truly are, why they matter so much, and how honoring them can completely transform the way we build trust, show respect, and create safety in our partnerships. This is going to be a reflective journey, so settle in, breathe, and just let the ideas land where they need to. Let's start with the basics. Boundaries are simply the limits we defined ourselves in. Limits that protect our personal and physical space, our emotional well-being, our mental health, and our time, and our personal values. Boundaries are described as the rules and guidelines that we set forth, the ways that we help others understand how to behave around us and what we're okay with and what we're not. Boundaries are how we teach people how to love us. It's as simple as that. Let me repeat that because this is important. Boundaries are how we teach people how to love us. When someone understands our limits and respects them, what they're really saying to us is, your well-being matters to me. Your comfort matters to me. Your emotional safety matters to me. And that is the foundation of every healthy and secure relationship. A lot of times people think boundaries only mean don't cross the line, but they're much broader than that. Let me talk through each of them in a way that can connect to your everyday life. For example, physical boundaries. These are personal space and physical comfort. So for example, you don't like hugs, so you don't give hugs. You want space when you're feeling angry or overwhelmed. It doesn't matter what your boundary is. What matters is that it exists and that it deserves respect. Then there's emotional boundaries. These boundaries are to protect your feelings. They're about being able to say, I'm not okay with being yelled at. I can't take your emotions right now. I need to talk about this calmly or take a break. Emotional boundaries will help us maintain our identity and peace when other people's emotions become overwhelming to us. Then there are mental boundaries. These involve your thoughts, your values, and your beliefs. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to agree to disagree. You're allowed to have your own viewpoint in a relationship. Boundaries should be able to have the ability to hold on to your thoughts and opinions without feeling pressure to conform to somebody else's. And healthy relationships actually make room for differences. You don't need to merge into the other person. Your individuality is part of what makes that connection meaningful. There's also sexual boundaries, and this includes comfort levels around intimacy, expectations, and consent. Your body, your comfort, your pace, these things always matter. Always. Then we have digital boundaries. And with technology, these things have become a little more common and can cause a lot of conflict. This one has gotten really important, like I said, and digital boundaries covered things like your privacy online, the privacy to your phone, your social media interactions, how much you're comfortable sharing publicly, how partners communicate digitally. Too many relationships fall apart because digital boundaries aren't discussed. And when they're not discussed, assumptions get made, and assumptions lead to conflict. And this is why boundaries are essential for healthy relationships. So what healthy boundaries do create is trust. When you say this is my limit and your partner respects it, it builds trust. When they violate it, it destroys that trust. And it's as simple as that. Emotional safety. Boundaries help partners feel safe opening up, feel honest, and feel comfortable being vulnerable because they know their feelings won't be dismissed or used against them. Respect comes from honoring someone's comfort, needs, and values. Setting a boundary is an act of self-respect and an act of love. It's important to also establish clear communication, and this is considered the heart of the healthy boundaries. So let's dig a little deeper into communication for a moment, because honestly, this is where most couples struggle. Healthy boundary communication means being open, being honest, being direct, being authentic, and being willing to listen. Boundaries protect mental health, reduce burnout, and help people communicate their needs with clarity. So how do we communicate these? We don't assume. We ask. So instead of saying, I figured you were fine with this, we say, are you comfortable with this? We don't hint, we express. We use our words. Instead of hoping someone gets the message, we say, I need this to feel respected. We don't push. We listen instead of reacting defensively. We pause and consider the other person's feelings, not just our own. If both people do this, the relationship becomes a safe place, a space where needs can be spoken without fear. We have consent and agreement. That builds an understanding of sharing. Boundaries mean very little if both partners are not in alignment. Consent and agreement will show up in daily life in ways people often overlook. For example, agreeing on how much alone time each person needs, discussing comfort levels with friends of the opposite sex, agreeing on how finances are handled, deciding how conflicts are resolved, and choosing what personal things stay private. For many couples, they assume they're on the same page. But unless it's discussed clearly, those assumptions can turn into hurt, resentment, and betrayal. Boundaries are not rules we impose. They're agreements we co-create as partners. And understanding feelings without judgment is also important. A huge part of respecting boundaries is emotional awareness, and that's something that shows up every day. So emotional awareness means paying attention to your partners, recognizing when they feel overwhelmed, noticing emotional cues, checking in before pushing forward, holding space for them without becoming defensive. When we respect emotional boundaries, what we're saying is, I honor them and I'm here with you. That builds an extraordinary level of safety. Let's talk about autonomy. Independence is not a threat. Some people fear that boundaries create distance, but the truth is healthy independence reduces anxiety and resentment in relationships. Independent includes keeping friendships, maintaining your hobbies, having goals outside of the relationship, spending time alone, growing individually. Boundaries strengthen relationships and protect emotional well-being. When partners encourage each other's independence, the relationship becomes stronger because two people are fulfilling a healthier and more balanced bound. So let me highlight the one thing that often gets overlooked. Respecting boundaries once is easy. Respecting boundaries consistently is character. But what does consistency mean? Consistency means following through on those boundaries, honoring commitments, not changing behavior only to revert back to it later. A consistent partner is a trustworthy partner, and boundaries are not about controlling anyone or shutting people out. They're about creating a healthy environment where love, trust, respect, and emotional safety can grow. One of the most important yet underappreciated aspects of boundaries is consistency. Anyone can respect a boundary once, maybe twice, but the real measure of respect is what happens day after day, especially when emotions run high or when tiredness, frustration, or stress sets in. So following through on what you've agreed to, maintaining behaviors when it's inconvenient, showing your partner through actions, not just words. Think of consistency as the muscle of healthy boundaries. You strengthen it by showing up the same way, reliable, predictable, and safe, time and time again. People sometimes think consistency is boring or restricting. Inconsistent boundary, on the other hand, creates confusion and it sends mixed signals. It makes partners question whether their needs truly matter. So if consistency is something you or your partner struggle with, that's okay. It's a skill, and like any other skill, it can be learned through patience and repetition. When boundaries are crossed, the power of repair is possible. Now let's talk about something that is unavoidable in every relationship, and that's boundary missteps. Even in the healthiest relationships, boundaries get crossed sometimes, and maybe the partner didn't understand the boundary fully. Maybe emotions ran high and someone reacted impulsively. Maybe the boundary wasn't communicated clearly. Or maybe someone, old habits kind of kicked in again from past relationships into this present one. What matters most isn't the misstep, it's the repair. Repair is a process of acknowledging the boundary that was crossed, owning the behavior without making excuses, offering a genuine apology, asking what is needed to build trust, and committing to learning from the experience. Here's the part that people often miss. Repairing builds trust. And yes, setting and respecting boundaries builds trust. But repairing is where trust actually deepens, because repair says, I care enough to take responsibility, to hold myself accountable. I care enough to grow. I care enough to try again differently. So what does a healthy boundary repair conversation sound like? It might sound something like, I realize I crossed the line and I see how that impacted you. I'm truly sorry and I want to understand how to avoid it again. Notice the absence of any excuses. Notice the openness and notice the willingness to learn. On the receiving end, healthy repair looks like being open in dialogue. Not punishing, not turning the mistake into an emotional ammunition, but working with the other person to rebuild that connection. We adapt because boundaries are going to shift as the relationship grows. Another often overlooked truth about boundaries is that they aren't fixed forever. People grow, circumstances definitely change, and comfort levels evolve. What felt okay last year may not feel okay today, and what wasn't okay early in the relationship may become comfortable later on. Healthy relationships make space for this evolution. Adaptability means having regular check-ins, such as, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling about our time boundaries lately? Do you still feel comfortable with the level of sharing that we do? Is there something new you need from me to feel safe or supported? These conversations are not signs of instability, they're signs of maturity. So imagine if your phone software never updated. Eventually it wouldn't function properly. And relationships are the same. They need updates, emotional updates, routine updates, boundary updates. When partners can adapt together, the relationship becomes fluid, flexible, and resilient. It can withstand life changes, personal growth, and shifting needs. Listening beyond words, because emotional context matters. So respecting boundaries is not just about listening to the words that someone says. It's about listening to that tone of voice, the body language, the emotions, the stress levels, the triggers, the past wounds. So for example, if your partner becomes quiet when a certain topic comes up, that's something to watch out for. If they tense up during a conflict, that's also something to watch for. If they pull away instead of engaging, that should also be another cue for you. Listening with emotional awareness means noticing the whole picture and responding with curiosity. You might say, I noticed you got quiet when we talked about that. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Or I see this topic is very sensitive for you. Do you want to take a break and revisit it later? The level of awareness transforms conflict. It turns disagreements into opportunities for deeper understanding and connection. Sometimes people know what they need, but they don't know how to say it. So here are some examples and some simple ways that can help you communicate boundaries clearly and compassionately. For example, I need to be honest about something that is important to me. I feel. Start with the I feel. That way you're taking responsibility of your feelings and you're not trying to shift them to your partner. I feel overwhelmed when arguments get loud. What I need instead is for us to speak calmly or take a break. Again, I feel overwhelmed when arguments get loud. What I need instead is for us to speak calmly or take a break. Or this boundary isn't about pushing you away. It's about protecting the connection so we can stay close and healthy. Another example can be, I need some time alone after work to decompress. It helps me show up better for us that way. Or I want to understand your needs too. Is there anything you want to set a boundary around or adjust together? This encourages dialogue, not demands. And accountability is very important also. For example, I realize I crossed a boundary today. I'm sorry. Can we talk about how to repair this and prevent it in the future? This builds trust faster than anything else. So here are ways for responding respectfully when your partner shares a boundary. Thank you for telling me. I know it's not always easy to be honest. Or I want to make sure I understand clearly, so I'm going to clarify it. Can you tell me what this looks like so I don't overstep? And of course, the examples that I'm giving you, you can reword to however it is that makes you comfortable and makes your partner comfortable. They do not have to be these exact same words. When boundaries feel comfortable, you can address anything. Now let's talk about when a partner sets a boundary. Sometimes when your partner sets a boundary, it might trigger a bit of discomfort, insecurity, fear, confusion, even defensiveness. It could go either way. Your partner might feel the same way. But it doesn't mean that the boundary is wrong. What it means is that the boundary is activating something inside of you or your partner that needs your attention. So ask yourself, why is this boundary making me uncomfortable? Is this reminding me of something from my past? Do I feel rejected, or am I afraid of losing closeness? What story am I telling myself about this boundary? Often the discomfort has nothing to do with the boundary itself. It has to do with the meaning that you're attaching to it. Healthy relationships create space for both people to talk through that meaning and find reassurance together. Healthy boundaries create healthy love. I want to close with something important. Boundaries are not meant to be punishment. It's not a punishment. It's not a rejection. It's not about being cold or controlling. Boundaries are expressions of love. They say, I want this relationship to last. I want to show up as the best version of myself. I want us to grow in a way that feels good and safe for both of us. And when boundaries are respected consistently, compassionately, and with the willingness to adapt, the relationship becomes even stronger. Two people who can set boundaries together are two people who can grow together without losing themselves along the way. So thank you for spending this time with me. I hope these reflections help you bring more clarity, more honesty, and more compassion into your relationships and the way that you care for yourself. Feel free to revisit parts of it, share it, or reflect on the questions we've explored today. Boundaries don't just protect relationships. They help them flourish. If you found value in this episode, please share a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Until next time.